Hi, good morning. My name is Nickeisha Barnes, and I'm absolutely excited to share my journey with you on this incredible podcast with this lovely lady. Go ahead, beautiful queen.
All right. So, Miss Barnes,
Yes.
I was listening to you while you were talking, and we're dealing with gender-based violence,
Yeah.
and you were expressing a little bit of what you went through. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey, please?
So I was in a 10-year relationship with my son's father. When we started, we were young. So we grew up together in the relationship. And for me, I think a discord started to happen when we started to see life in different angles. And for me, I wanted to grow myself into the realm of education. I wanted that also for my son. When you come from poverty, sometimes the only journey you see to excellence is education. And that for me is what I saw. But I also knew too that I loved music and I loved the space of music and I wanted to explore that as well. I think because he didn't understand and appreciate, he got very controlling, and my exploration and my desire to see more and see the world, the discord got even greater and it became very emotionally abusive, and then it got physically abusive, and it also got economically abusive because now he started to tie finances to our arguments, and I started to find myself getting very limited financially because yes man, like I am, I'd been wrap up my money with him, and so yeah, all of that this start one, I'm never have the money. Go ahead with the next question.
All right. So, can you tell me how you get out of that situation? What was the mind frame like moving out of that situation?
Wow, that's a rough question, you know. I think it took a village, it took my community and family to love me stubbornly for me to get out of the situation because I didn't see myself getting out on my own. So it took my mother's love, my brother's love, it took my son's love because I was watching his eyes look at me and I didn't like what his eyes were seeing. I wasn't showing up in excellence. I was allowing this to happen to me. And I think because I'm coming from that space, I'm readily able to speak on it to say, we who walk that journey of abuse, we also have a part to play in what we accept for ourselves. And I accepted that for myself, that that was my life. And the minute I saw his eyes and the eyes of my nieces and other young women looking at me, I didn't like what their eyes were seeing. I didn't like what their eyes were showing me up. And I had to change that for me. I wanted my son to see that those situations are not normal, they're not healthy, and that's not how you show up in love as a man. That's not how you show up in protection as a man. And I had to change my mind about me to get out. It wasn't easy though.
All right. So we know now
Yeah.
social media is the hit
Yeah.
per se,
Yeah.
and you realize that there's a lot of things shown on social media, and as you just mentioned, the yamids. You
Yeah.
realize that there's a lot of that in society,
Yeah.
the whole dunce culture,
Yeah.
and you have younger females out there, even males too, because you have males that go through abusive situation,
Yeah.
because abuse goes in many ways,
Please, yeah.
and they will sit. What would your advice be to those persons?
So I think it's two things are happening. I think social media is a beautiful realm for us to speak truths and for the next generation to hear the journeys of persons who have overcome those issues, those unhealthy relationships. I think we have to share with them what a healthy relationship looks like. I won't never falsify nothing and pretty up nothing. You gotta have conflict, you gotta have quarrel, but it doesn't have to look like abuse. You can disagree and still be in love. You can say, I don't agree with your stance on something in your partnership and still move in love. And it doesn't have to get physical where a woman or a man will put their hand on their partner, but it's something that you can talk through. So for me, it's giving young people the language to be able to say, this is how I feel in this moment. And when you say those things, this is how I'm receiving it. But I think a lot of the times we don't allow ourselves to get into the emotions and to sit in it so that we can have language for it. We get angry. We feel angry means say you do this. But we don't know say God never said not to get angry. He just said don't go sleep with it and make it stay because that brings bitterness. And we haven't taught our children to be angry, but to be able to have language when we're angry. Say, I'm gonna mean disrespect. I'm gonna mean violence. I'm gonna mean me have to show you how me stay and how me be. you can be angry and that passion, you can still have language in the anger. So I think for me, that's what we need on social media. More of those types of conversations, more of those types of content where you're saying to young people and to boys, you're allowed to be angry. But this is how anger shows up healthy. And this is how anger shows up unhealthy. And this is how you look now. You look like a monster when probably at your core, in your stomach, you know, and you that. Give me that core and not the one where you think people want to. You have to show them, say this is how you are. Yeah.
All right. So you know the narrative sometimes is,
Yeah.
oh, I stay because he loves me, or I stay because she loves me. What advice would you give to that person? Because as far as I know, and maybe you would know,
Yeah.
love is not an abuse.
So
Love is not abusive.
no, it's not.
So what would your advice be?
I think for me, it's every individual is different. And so you know, have one size fits everybody approach or problem solving. I think it's conversations starting in the family, starting wider into the community, going into your churches and your schools, going into workplaces, and then moving into policy. So it's being able to say love shows up this way, but also when it does not, what do you do? What are the coping things that you can take on? But you have to understand that everybody's context is cultural to them. And therefore, I can't sit here and tell you what that looks like for a girl or a man to say, I'm in love and that's why I stay. It's individual. I had to learn that abuse is individual because what my situation looks like doesn't look like everybody else's own. And I stayed because I felt that I was showing up because I wanted to heal the person. I felt if I loved him big enough and if I loved him loud enough, then I could somehow fix what was inside of him that needed fixing. I never realized that I was giving over all of me to a situation that it wasn't my problem to fix in the first place.
Right?
And that's where I would start. You are not here to fix anybody. In my mind, thing I scream out to telling us, say, "Ah, Jesus work that? It's not your work. You are here to fix you. You can only control you, and how you allow persons to treat you is what you're going to get. So if you don't put up boundaries, the first back off, the first hand go up in the sky, you say, hey, look here, how about that? Me not like that thing, me not stay. If we don't cultivate those things from early, then it becomes something that when the person does it, you excuse the behavior because you're not going to put the agenda that you're in love on it. But love not show up that way there.
All right. So you know, counseling is considered taboo in our culture, and a person going through this
Yeah.
situation might be scared because they're going to say, "Wait, I mean, sitting here even doing an interview with you,
Yeah.
persons are going to say, oh, but I'm scared of what the world is going to think. I'm scared of what this person is going to say." What would your advice be to persons who are watching on that is afraid to go for counseling
Yeah.
or afraid that the world might look at them in a different light?
Look here, at your life. Healing is nobody's business but your own. You have jump, them a go chat you. You sit down, them a go chat you. You run, them a go chat you. What about doing it just for you? It's nobody's business. It's a them problem when when you get into your mind now and start perceiving what other people are think about it. Perceive for yourself. I need help. And I'm going to reach for help because I want to be stronger for me. I want to be better for me. And if counseling it is, then I'll counseling me I go because I know I need to be the best me possible. To show up for myself, to show up for my relationships, to show up in any space I want to in excellence. So if it means I have to go get somebody to walk me through this journey, I'm going to go get it. Your mental health is also a part. Same way you got gym, go lift up the weights, your mental health needed to lift up some weights and clear some of the clutter so you can be in a safe space to be your best self.
All right. You also mentioned your son.
Yeah.
So I know there are other persons out there that have kids in the relationship, and they will tell you, "Oh, I stay because of my kid." What advice do you have for those persons? Because we know that situations like these
Yeah.
will affect the kids mentally as well.
So I think for me, my son he was about 5, 6, 7, and I watched him. I watched his eyes changing every time there was a physical moment and he saw it. His eyes started to transform, and for me, I didn't want those eyes to see that going up into older teenage years because I didn't want him to think it was normal. And if my son is a king the way I see him as a king, then I need to put on the robe and the garments of a queen. And that meant I had to step away from a relationship that was going to make my son not see me as a queen because he was so confused about what was happening. I wanted to be able to stand tall in my excellence. And if it meant leaving that relationship so that his little eyes could see what love looks like, I would step away. And the love I'm talking about is the love for myself. I needed to survive. I needed to survive not just for my son but for me. And he had to see me want to survive because that shows him what resilience looks like and what self-love shows up like.
All right. So finally, for a female sitting at home,
Yeah,
a male, or even a child, because sometimes you have teenagers that go through that abuse.
yeah,
What is your advice to them? Because we know we have the ministry, they have the different programs,
yes,
and you have the different organizations. So what's your final advice for everyone sitting watching this interview and they are looking at you,
yeah.
a survivor?
Get help. I think I waited too long, but I'm glad I got help. I got counseling. I we got a courthouse because I have to check out restraining order. Look here, get help. Include your community. The people who stay while you're going through that, they stubbornly love you. They want you to be well. Don't push them away. Don't allow the relationship to isolate you because that's what works for them. The isolation from your support systems. Get help. Ministry have a lot of numbers. Call them, go up on the ministry website, find those numbers, get counseling. You can do it privately, nobody have to know. You can get telecounseling, get some help. It's really critical for you to know that you have support and you're using it.
Thank you so much.